Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand.
Me and him split everything. We started yesterday.
Paul Teutul Jr. didn't grow up in a house that taught him how to shake hands, make small talk, or smile for cameras. He grew up in a metal shop where the currency was skill, the lessons came with grease on them, and love looked a lot like being yelled at in front of the whole crew. By the time most kids his age were figuring out what they wanted to be, Paul had already been building for years, and the man pushing him hardest wasn't a coach or a teacher, it was his father. That relationship, hammered together in sparks and silence and screaming matches across decades, would eventually produce America's most famous custom motorcycles, a reality television empire watched by millions, and a legal war between father and son that played out in New York courtrooms while the whole country watched on cable. What most people saw was the drama. What they missed was everything underneath it. The kind of family damage that doesn't show up on any camera, no matter how many you put in the room. At 12 years old, Paul Jr. wasn't riding bikes or playing video games. He was inside Orange County Ironworks, sweeping metal shavings off concrete floors and running tools to men twice his age. Before that, he used to visit his dad's work sites and gather scrap metal the way other kids collected baseball cards, arranging pieces into little sculptures, finding shapes inside what everyone else called junk. That instinct, to see something usable in what others threw away, never left him. By 14, his welding carried a calm precision that surprised the experienced fabricators working alongside him. By 19, he was running the railing division at that same shop, a department responsible for nearly half the company's total income. Nobody handed him that position. He expanded design offerings, modernized the shop's output, brought in clients willing to pay more and wait longer just to get something made by him, and earned the grudging respect of a crew that had every reason to doubt a teenager carrying his father's last name. Earning respect from strangers was hard. Earning it from Paul Sr. was something else entirely. Sr. ran on brute force and old-school discipline, while Jr. operated with an artistic eye, thinking in clean lines and precise detail. And one summer, he redesigned a railing to be both stronger and better looking. His father dismissed it without a word. A few days later, Sr. approved it and built it into production anyway, still without saying anything. That silence was the closest thing to praise Jr. was going to get, and both of them understood it. The gap between their two ways of working was always there, quiet and widening, even before the cameras arrived. After graduating, Jr. entered a vocational program that let him spend half his school day learning metalwork from the ground up. He studied welding techniques, blueprints, and the engineering behind stress points in steel. One instructor said he possessed a rare ability, like he could sense how metal wanted to move before making contact with it. Those hours beyond the required coursework, practicing every weld and every cut until the motion became instinct, were what separated him from fabricators who had been at it for decades. When he returned to his father's shop, the kid who once swept floors spoke the same technical language as the senior crew and could back every word of it with results. The pivot toward motorcycles started with a notebook. Jr. sketched bike designs during evenings after long days in the shop, ideas he hadn't shared with anyone. Paul Sr. got interested in bikes again himself and asked his son to help him build one. And when Sr. saw what Jr. had drawn, something shifted in his expression. It wasn't just mechanical competence, it was art. Right there, Sr. told him they should build bikes as a real business, not just a side project. Orange County choppers launched on roughly $175,000 pulled from the ironworks, with Sr. holding 80% and Jr. at 20%. Their first build, a motorcycle called True Blue, consumed 4 months of late nights, relentless grinding, blue paint, and white flames. And when they hauled it to Daytona in 1999, the reaction told them everything. They weren't nobody anymore. The early years of the business were brutal. In 2000, they were still working out of a freezing workshop where tools broke and suppliers demanded payment up front. Jr. slept on a couch in the shop to keep builds on schedule, and the fights between father and son were daily and real. Nothing staged, just the pressure of survival. The call that changed everything came in 2002 from a producer named Craig Pelagian, who had spotted a magazine spread on their motorcycles. Sr. answered the phone and barked at him. The deal nearly died before it started. Pelagian came back with a revised pitch, filmed the actual process, arguments and all. Jr. fought it hard. He wrote his father a 5-page letter, warning that television would turn them into a joke, and the first contract offered only $5,000 per episode, with retakes that disrupted welding and a production company that initially wanted to call the whole show Family Friction. Jr. nearly walked away. American Chopper premiered on March 31, 2003, and within 3 episodes it was drawing more than 3 million viewers every week. Discovery Channel moved $13 million in merchandise that first season alone. The shop started attracting tourists off the street. The two Teutul's relocated into a $12 million facility just to keep pace with demand. Senior's temper pulled people in, but Junior's work kept them watching. A single scene of him shaping a gas tank with no dialogue and no music became one of the most requested clips the show ever produced. Welding school enrollment climbed nationwide, and instructors across the country started calling it the Pauly effect. The Black Widow bike changed the scale of everything they'd built. A spiderweb patterned gas tank, custom wheels, and 167 hours of fabrication work, unveiled in New York to a crowd of 15,000 people that security struggled to contain, followed by 280,000 model kit sales in 6 months. Orange County Choppers stopped being a motorcycle shop and became a brand. Then came the Fire Bike in June 2003, built as a tribute to the first responders who died during the September 11th attacks. And this one carried weight that went beyond any aesthetic decision. Junior welded a real piece of steel recovered from World Trade Center wreckage onto the frame himself. The motorcycle held 343 hand-painted emblems, one for each firefighter killed. When it was damaged in an accident the following year, the New York Fire Department responded personally and treated its recovery like a mission. More than 248 events later, people still show up and leave handwritten notes beside it. A second tribute bike came 8 years after the first, unveiled January 20th, 2011, with New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg present at the ceremony. A board member of the 9/11 Memorial had commissioned it, and Junior delivered 2 motorcycles instead of 1. The first stayed as a permanent tribute. The second was raffled, with every dollar going directly to fund the September 11th Museum. When the covers came off that day, grown men cried. The design told a story without requiring a single word of explanation, and the Huffington Post ran a full feature that carried the moment to people who weren't there. While the television drama consumed the public's attention, Junior was advancing technically in ways the show never captured. In 2012, he brought T-spline modeling into his custom motorcycle design process, compressing what had taken over 40 hours down to 15, and other fabrication shops eventually adopted the same approach without knowing where it originated. By 2015, he had developed a frame-building method that cut weight without sacrificing structural strength, and had taught himself to write G-code, the programming language behind CNC machines. The man who started as a designer now controlled the machines doing the cutting, handling both the creative and the technical sides of every build himself. Between 2010 and 2016, Junior and Senior faced each other in multiple televised build competitions, and Junior won 5 out of 7 of them. The most significant came in 2011, when Senior brought his usual aggressive, raw approach, and Junior answered with a motorcycle inspired by the P-51 Mustang fighter plane. A design so considered and sleek, it functioned less like transportation and more like sculpture. That bike won. Most of them did. Junior wasn't just competing against his father. He was demonstrating, in the most public way possible, that the student had become something his teacher never anticipated. The end of their working relationship didn't arrive suddenly. It built through years of tightening control and growing jealousy. In 2007, Senior formalized Junior's 20% stake in the company, while keeping full authority over every decision. And as Junior's designs started drawing more press than anything Senior was producing, the grip tightened further. By 2008, the fights were constant, and the atmosphere inside the shop was corrosive. Designer Jason once destroyed his own finished work after one of Senior's tirades. Even Mikey, who spent years absorbing tension and trying to keep everyone calm, looked like someone who had run out of cushion. September 2008 brought the breaking point. Junior arrived late, Senior erupted, and what began as a confrontation turned into Junior throwing a chair across the office, kicking in a door, and walking out with his father chasing him screaming into the parking lot. By April 2009, it was permanent. Senior moved immediately to push Junior out of the business entirely. He offered $500,000 for the 20% stake, and then filed a lawsuit demanding another $1 million in damages, placing Orange County Choppers itself as a co-defendant in a move designed to isolate Junior completely. The legal fight came down to a single, poorly written contract clause that gave Senior the right to purchase Junior's shares at fair market value, without ever defining what that phrase meant. New York Supreme Court ruled for Senior in 2010. Junior appealed, and in December of that year, the appellate court reversed the decision, ruling the clause too vague to enforce. Junior kept his stake. His father couldn't touch it. A one-year non-compete clause kept Jr. away from motorcycle building during that stretch, so he redirected. He designed a camping grill for Coleman. He built a public dog park. He and his wife converted a room in their house into a working office and launched Paul Jr. Designs directly across the street from Orange County Choppers. When the non-compete expired in April 2010, the fallout was immediate. Vinny DiMartino, Joe Pulifico, Nub Collard, Mikey, and eventually Cody Connolly all walked out of OCC and followed Jr. across the street. Discovery Channel packaged the collapse into a new series called Senior vs. Jr., premiering in August 2010, framing it as competition and letting viewers choose sides. That same August, Jr. married Rachel Beast, who had first appeared on set during a shoot wearing a yellow jumpsuit. Paul Sr. received an invitation to the wedding. He didn't attend. The lawsuits were still active, and his absence from a reception featuring a 6-tier Cake Boss cake and more than 100 guests said more than any statement could have. The empty chair was visible to everyone in the room, and nobody pretended otherwise. Hudson arrived in 2015, after nearly 2 years of Jr. and Rachel trying to conceive, and holding that child shifted something in him that no legal win or ratings number had managed. For the first time, he said, he understood what it might feel like to be his own father, watching a son walk away. A quiet transformation through Christian faith had already been reshaping his priorities for years before that, driven by a spiritual retreat that rerouted his values and led him and Rachel to make real commitments before their marriage. That faith became a guiding force he spoke about publicly, and it eventually gave him the courage to sit with his anger toward his father and find something close to forgiveness. Not because the wounds had closed, but because fatherhood showed him exactly what those wounds had cost. The 2018 reunion was never about healing. It was a production decision, built around restoring the Yankees-themed chopper they had built in 2005, a bike that had been sold off and later destroyed under circumstances some found suspicious. A 2-hour special called The Last Ride followed in 2020, centered on a patriotic motorcycle commission from ABC Supply. Jr. later said the only moments that felt real were the quiet ones, when cameras were elsewhere and he and his father worked side by side without commentary, just building together the way they used to. Those moments were rare. When the bike was finished, Sr. said plainly that the project hadn't helped their relationship at all, and fans responded with trending hashtags calling for Jr. to be treated with basic respect. As of 2025, Paul Sr. still runs Orange County Choppers. Paul Jr. built his company into a $14 million brand, with apparel lines and licensing agreements that reach far beyond the motorcycle world. They haven't shared a holiday meal in more than 15 years, not even after Hudson was born. Jr. announced a memoir in February 2025 titled Given the Opportunity, due in October, and insiders describe it as unflinching. It's expected to cover incidents cut from American Chopper, including a 2008 confrontation that nearly turned physical, and to address Paul Sr.'s battles with alcoholism and the lasting damage those years inflicted on everyone around him. Jr. said he's done concealing the truth, and that saying it out loud might reach someone else living through the same kind of wreckage. After everything, that's what remains. Not the ratings, not the lawsuits, not the motorcycles. Just a son finally putting language to what it actually cost him to grow up in that shop, under those lights, next to that man.